going to get in trouble with the law, but he's definitely not prosecuted about recording.
So
we're recording also.
Okay. Okay.
So
I'm sorry,
we're being stupid.
that's fine. So first of all, I'm excited to talk with y'all because, well, I'm a big animation fan in general, and so I already know y'all's names from the Boondocks and the Jellies and everything that y'all worked on. So it's cool to be able to finally speak to y'all.
Awesome, thank you.
So first of all, how did you guys come up with the show Sugar and Toys?
So the idea for the show started by way of a conversation that I had with an executive at Cartoon Network, and we were just kind of just talking about like whatever happened to Saturday morning cartoons, and one of the things that he said to me was, well, network. I mean, he said, well, corporations can't sell sugar and toys to kids anymore, so the cartoons kind of went away, and it just kind of it was just this like weird epiphany that I had that we only had like a childhood because corporations were selling us like lead infested toys and and obesity, childhood obesity. Through a lot of the sugar and the cereals and the candy, and it was just kind of crazy to me. So like Brian and I, we talked about creating the show like using like a Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic and kind of poking fun at society, and basically shining a light on how the adults are kind of asleep at the wheel, and we're a product of that generation. So a lot of the stuff that that we were influenced by, and a lot of things we were inspired by during that time, we tried to inject it into the show with the dash of social commentary and a little bit of satire and just a bunch of weird, funny shit. I mean, that's the best way I could describe how we came up with it.
And that kind of gets into my next question. Actually, you kind of answered it a little bit. But as I said before, I know that y'all have worked on things like the Boondocks and the Jellies, two things that are particularly very millennial in how they approach pop culture and social commentary and all that stuff. And just I guess kind of the idea of like someone screaming into the void about what is wrong with society and hoping someone listens. How do you think Sugar and Toys continues that particular vein of, I guess, entertainment or commentary about life?
I mean, I think that kind of our formula and a lot of the comedy that influenced us kind of has one foot in sort of asking questions or shining a light, and one foot in kind of reveling in the craziness. So for us, I mean, I think the biggest thing, you refer to this stuff as kind of being millennial. But we've been influenced by and doing this for quite some time, and really the main thing is really kind of holding a mirror up to what's going on out there. So like the kind of the first thing to connect with an audience is to really just show a reflection of what is going on, in their lives or at least in their consciousness. And then kind of the second piece is just sort of throwing a crowbar into that and just sort of like scuffing it up in a way where you make people look at things or like invite people to look at things from a perspective that they wouldn't have done so. And sometimes that's in the form of kind of commenting on what we think the problem is, and sometimes it's about just sort of turning the volume up in a way and like kind of letting the chaos get even more chaotic, and sort of see what happens. But like first and foremost, we want to be entertaining. We want to be smart. And then I guess another piece of the puzzle for this show is just trying to show a different kind of representation than what's necessarily shown. So in terms of like absurdist humor, in terms of like intellectual humor, like we're just trying to kind of, kind of filter that through sort of contemporary youth culture and hip hop culture in particular.
Something else that I also noticed, since we've been talking about the commentary aspect, is the subversiveness, which I think we've already kind of commented on too, of the sketches. I was watching some video while I was watching the show and some interviews that y'all did to prepare for this interview. So I was watching how y'all were talking about one skit in particular with the police sketch, like the kids that were playing police and the kid who gets shot by the kid police, and how Carl in particular was saying how it shook him up seeing that play out, and like hearing the fake bullets go off. So with that said, it's to me it's interesting how the skits start from this childlike perspective and then just quickly goes into something where it's like, oh my gosh, what am I watching? Like this, is affecting me for real.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean that's one thing that like Brian and I, both, enjoy doing. Actually, like, we like to do things that are disruptive, at times. I wouldn't say every sketch is like that, because sometimes some stuff we just come up with and we do just because it's just it's just funny, and it's not really any kind of deep commentary or satirical approach to it. But in a case like Playing While Black, I mean, that is one of those pieces that you actually want people to be a little uncomfortable, watching it, because the reality of the situation is very uncomfortable, and sometimes it's hard for people to really get the full impact of what is actually happening in society until you find the right amount of satire to inject into it. Because it's almost like the satire is almost, I almost look at it like an antidote. You almost, you gotta put just enough of it in there for people to open themselves up to looking at it, in a very real way, and then you slap them a little harder with the truth in an extreme way, and I give you another example of that. We did this sketch. I forgot the name of it actually, but it's basically like based on like all of these like viral videos where white women have been calling the police on black people at the pool, calling the police on black people at apartment complex, the people that live there, and so we did like an award show for white women that have called the cops on black people, right? And so we had like 3 different clips of like the winners of the award, and we saw like there was one woman that was calling the police on a black girl that was trying to use the bathroom. We had another woman that actually called the cops. She called the black cop on the black cops that she was standing in front of. But then the very last one is where it really takes a real weird turn. Like there's a nursery, like there's a nursery in a hospital where the nurse. I'm sorry. There's a woman at the maternity ward who was actually calling the police on a black baby. She's like, she don't know how this black baby got here, but this black baby is making her really uncomfortable. Would you please come save me? So it's like going that ridiculous with it is I don't know. That's a part of our formula is like, and by the way, have every ooh ah and you know and kind of you guys have to put all of those in there.
Oh,
I know I use it a lot, and I'm going to ask if
no, it's
ask if you would mind.
No, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be transcribing.
Your recording device has like an ooh filter. If you could like filter out the ums and the oohs, you know, we'd love.
Well,
we can donate the oohs and ums to charity. Actually, we don't need an interview, but we can put them aside.
Well, I'm gonna be transcribing this anyway, so it's I can like edit all that stuff out.
That's good because there's some interviews we did where they put every single, you know what I'm saying, every single sound and word that was wrong in there, and it's just like, and then when I'm thinking about it, I get real self-conscious about it, and I do it more, you know. So I would appreciate you if you could like make me sound better than what I'm actually sounding like in real life.
Yeah, and can you note in the article that they don't sound as good in real life, but I edited them to sound good? Appreciate that.
Y'all will sound great.
Thank you. But just to finish it up, I was just saying that, like, you know, I mean that is a part of our formula is really you know, starting kind of mild and very familiar, you know, and then taking a sharp left turn and driving the audience off a cliff a little bit, like, you know, or sometimes driving the audience towards a cliff and then hitting them with just a soft joke. Like, it's always like the unexpected, you know, like we try to make it so, you know, it's not so predictable and we kind of, you know, I don't know, we kind of get off on stirring up the pot when maybe you shouldn't, or like playing with taboos and turning perspectives upside down and challenging the way people think and feel about stuff and believe, and you know, it's just all of that is about just kind of expanding your awareness and seeing things through different lenses, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with Sugar and Toys, I mean, having the kind of child perspective on our world, like sort of asking the questions of what is it that we're communicating to our kids, or what would the assumption of children be if they were observing this? Like the same way, you know, like the piece that you pointed out, like the Playing While Black piece. You know, when we were little kids playing cops and robbers, there were certain assumptions in the gameplay about like good guys and bad guys, and in that piece, all of a sudden, the idea of putting, you know, two children in there where, you know, you're dealing with issues of body cams and you're dealing with issues of the fact that like a police officer could think he saw something in somebody's hand and that gives them the right to deadly force. The idea of like somehow that in the world we live in you know, 2019 is a world where those are the assumptions, where the so-called, even like the first thing that the kid cop says to him, he goes, you know, hey there, bad guy. And it's this kid is literally innocently like licking an ice cream cone, going like bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not even agreeing to play this cops and robbers game that you're trying to play with me. And again, like that in a way really reflects when you think about, you know, innocent folks that have fallen victim to police brutality or even police assassination in the world today. It's like you could be like literally standing in your yard and a police officer could walk up to you and say, you know, you're a bad guy in your own yard,
mm-hmm.
and I think I see something in your hand. I mean, like, that piece is very specifically even inspired by a real case that had happened. So, you know,
mm-hmm.
it's really kind of showing, you know, the horror of that is I think just, like, even amplified when you go, like, okay, if kids were playing Cops and Robbers 2019 and we were playing by the rules of today, what would it look like? And, like, that's kind of our answer to that.
Mm-hmm. And when you talked about you know, just being in your driveway, that reminded me. I'm doing research for a project that I've been working on, and so I had to research a lot of civil rights stuff. And so I was reading about Medgar Evers, and I knew how he died, but researching how he died, I was like, wow, I forgot that he literally did die in his driveway because someone shot him. Just because he's trying to fight for people's rights to do, you know, regular stuff. Someone shot him in his driveway. So that's just a tangential thing, but it's kind of crazy how those themes keep happening in America. And I mean, I know why, but and you know, it's a long story by itself.
Yeah, you know, the other part of it is you know, like, there is, even if I feel like this. Even if there is some type of perceived threat by a police officer when he's in a certain area, right, at a certain time and sees certain types of people, right? Even if there is something that is triggered inside of him that makes him feel like he is in some kind of danger, right? Which could happen. The bigger problem to me is the social engineering behind why he even feels that way in the beginning. You know, because there's definitely a lack of empathy or a certain perception of black people. You know what I'm saying? That allows that. I mean, look, I was on an airplane one time in first class, and the woman that I was sitting next to, she had her back turned towards me. Right? She turned around because she was like putting up for stuff or whatever. She turned around and she saw me and almost had a heart attack. Like she literally like screamed, and I was like, first of all, we're on an airplane, right? And second of all, we're in first class. Like, what are the chances that a black man is going to rob you in first class on an airplane? Like, you know, but there was something, you know, that triggered her just psychologically, you know what I mean, and emotionally. And I feel like, I mean, a lot of that is this is where, you know, we have to really like look at, you know, society as a whole, and like Ryan was talking about representation and how we consume content about black people, whether it be the news or whether it be TV or film. You know, and it's starting to change and shift now. But when we were growing up, I mean, there was a lot of what we saw, you know, kind of programmed us to look at each other a certain way, you know, and that is a part of also what we want to, like, I'm not even saying necessarily with sugar and toys, but just in general, one of the things that I feel like is important for us all to do is challenge those stereotypes, push the boundaries in terms of like perception and you know, what is good, what is bad, what is, you know, what is appropriate, what is, you know, what like all of these like what do you call them, like all of these I don't know, like all of these psychological like I don't even know what to call them, stigmas and I don't know, observations that we've made, you know, growing up watching a lot of this stuff. Like I think it has to, that what we're looking at has to change. I think, you know, so we have to change what's being projected from the projector, you know, because a lot of, you know what I mean? Because I think a lot of that comes from you know, from what we're consuming through television, film, and media.
Yeah, I would agree.
Anyways, I didn't mean, I kind of went on a tangent.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Because I mean, it reminded me of something that happened just a few weeks ago to me. Well, first of all, I live in Birmingham, Alabama, and I live in like, I guess you would say, I mean, it's the white part of town that I'm living in right now, just to be blunt about it. And it's like the bougier side of town, which I didn't grow up on this side of town, but we live here because it's closer to downtown. But anyway, long story short, my mom and my siblings were visiting us for a while. And like we were going to the grocery store and going out of our house basically, and so some guy who is our neighbor somewhere down the street was just staring at us as he was like getting in his car and was looking around his car as if we were like messing with his car or something. And we were like, why are you, you know, to each other, we were like, why is he staring at us like this? And so then like a few days later, me and my sister, we lived together. We were going out and we saw that same guy and he's still staring at us like as he's getting in his car or getting out of his car or something. And so I just turned and looked at him and just stared at him too. And I was like, yeah, I'm staring at you. What are you looking at? And so it's like, even in your own neighborhood, it's like, what's the big deal? I'm living in this house. I'm paying rent just like you. So why are you staring at me like I'm trying to take your rinky dink car when we got a better car than you anyway? So it's just like that. I guess I got kind of angry, but it's just, you know, that kind of stuff is just like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, deal with your own stuff, go do your own thing, and stop worrying about what we're doing when we're just trying to go to Publix and get some food. But anyway, I guess onto happier subjects. What is well, the show, is based on a lot of. It has its roots in Saturday morning cartoons. So like, with that said, what are some of y'all's favorite Saturday morning cartoons, or just cartoons in general? Because I know the Kanye skit is like kind of based on Ed, Ed and Eddie. Um, so like, what are some of your favorite cartoons that like influenced y'all with creating this show?
I mean, probably the Hanna-Barbera stuff from like our era. I feel like Saturday morning was probably like the dominant force. So like all the Flintstones and the Herculoids and and Scooby Doo stuff, and then probably my favorite like Saturday morning cartoon were the Looney Tunes. Still, it was like I don't think anyone has ever done it better. Though I hear that they're coming back. Our buddy, actually, Eric Bauza, is now playing every single like Looney Tunes character. It seems.
Mm-hmm.
But those, in terms of like the amount of just comedy, personality, music appreciation, hilarious violence, like cultural references, like those. I learned so much about the world watching Looney Tunes. And then, a lot of adult animation. I mean, Carl and I have done most of our career at Adult Swim, so, a lot of those shows, from the beginning to now, are just shows that we, always loved and still love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Brian said, like most of the, I would definitely say the style of Sigma Toys was heavily influenced by like Hanna-Barbera, and in terms of just stuff that I just like and then just that I like and am inspired by, I would say it's a wide range of stuff. Like I love a lot of like real cartoony stuff. Like I'm a big fan of like Chuck Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And also like Bill Clinton is like one of my favorite animators of all time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't. Well, Bill Clinton, he did a lot of the stuff for Liquid Television and MTV,
mm-hmm.
And he does a lot of short films and stuff like that. But also, I love the John Kay stuff, like Brennan Stimpy and Fat Albert and the Gang, Bruce Smith with the Proud Family,
mm-hmm.
and Bebe's Kids. All that stuff is really great. Also, like a lot of anime, like I like Foolie Cooley, and I'm a big Takeshi Koike fan, so I like Redline and some of the stuff that he's done, and Cowboy Bebop, and
mm-hmm.
Samurai Champloo. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I like a lot of French stuff too. There's some really cool French cartoons, and I'm a big. I don't know. I'm a big like animation head.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Like a lot of those, like Bill Plimpton and Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop and all those stuff. I grew up with that stuff too. I do a lot of like research just as a hobby anyway, so I feel like I know a lot of things that like maybe other people in my age group don't even recognize. But I did a lot of Chuck Jones, Tex Avery, like all those creators and shows. Like I loved those shows growing up.
Yeah, me too. Really cool stuff.
Let's see. I think I have 2 more questions. So I know Kyle is a part of the show, a big part of the show. How did he become, I guess, kind of like the presenter in a way of Sugar and Toys?
Fuse actually brought us Kyle. From the beginning when we were first putting the show together, we had the idea that we wanted to try to do something a little bit more experimental. That would, because also trying to think about the Saturday morning cartoon format, we would think about things like Sesame Street or Romper Room or Mr. Rogers or Captain Kangaroo. So we kind of always had this idea that we wanted there to be a live action component to it. And it went through a couple of different iterations in terms of what that was going to be. But once
originally it was going to be MF Doom.
Oh.
Well, that's who we wanted originally. Like that was our first. That was the very first person we thought of, like for the host.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would have made the best host, but it was weird and funny to us.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Brian. My bad.
No.
I just thought it'd be like kind of cool for people to know that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, sure. No. I mean, there was definitely a version of the show where it was MF Doom, and he had his best friend was his imaginary play friend was like a 6-year-old white boy. So it was going to be MF Doom and his little white kid hanging out eating cereal, like talking about philosophy and shit. It ended up being a little different than that. But yeah. So then once we got Kyle on board, and once Fuse came on board. Also just kind of thinking about the demographics, because the original iteration of the show was really even more fixated on like Saturday morning cartoon aesthetics, like He-Man and other stuff that's very specific to cartoons. But then Fuse, which kind of is a sort of millennial targeted channel with like strong DNA in music. I mean, we also done a lot of stuff in music as well. We kind of ended up adapting the show a little more in that direction, and then Kyle coming on board kind of took it further in that direction. And then Kyle being kind of a young dude and sort of having these other aesthetic considerations, like we kind of started thinking about like 1990s Nickelodeon, which is a little later. Carl and I our initial stuff when we were little kids was more like 80s, but like started thinking more about like 90s aesthetics and Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, and just some of what's kind of popular in hip hop now anyway, in terms of just the looks, the color palette, the vibe of sort of hip hop now. It just kind of felt like a perfect fit for that. And then once we kind of had Kyle on board, we got to know him a bit. We watched his movie, The After Party, that he was awesome in, and then just started kind of writing towards what we think he would be good at. And his thing is that he's really got this just incredible likable quality. Like he's almost like Will Smith meets Ferris Bueller or something. Like he just has this really like likable, sweet quality. And so then as Carl and I were writing this, we also realized that we could use Kyle's kind of likability as a way of offsetting some of the more edgy, grimy or disturbing cartoon content. So there would be something kind of fun to seeing Kyle's pieces, which I think they're still pretty adult and have adult language and some adult themes, but they're like sort of lighter and fluffier and more happy-go-lucky. And then some of the cartoons it almost gives us license to go even harder. So it turned out to be a nice balance.
Cool. And I did notice also that he does seem to have like that kind of, I think in one interview, y'all were like trying to figure out if his vibe is innocence or I guess almost like, I don't want to say naive, but like some kind of like je ne sais quoi of childlike likability. And it seems like he's like, he does literally seem like the product of like my generation, where we used to sit down with a big bowl of cereal, a big bowl of Lucky Charms or something, and like watch ABC Saturday cartoons. So it is cool to see like seeing how he's like the product of that generation, and how he his point of view is like sprinkled throughout the show, and it kind of bounces off the cartoon skits also, because it's the same kind of like take on the whole Saturday morning cartoon thing. So I think he's a great fit.
Yeah, that's really he's really like that. Like he's really a happy he's
really being himself. Like but there is like a certain like innocence about him in a charm, kind of like a young Will Smith kind of charm, you know. But yeah, that works really well, especially since we're doing these these throwback like Nickelodeon style, like sitcom, live action pieces. You know what I mean? So he works really well for that.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on Saved by the Bell for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My last question is. Oh, also, as you can see, I do and too, so I have to edit myself in these interviews as well. What do you? And this is the last question. What do you hope viewers take away from the show? Because we've got into in this whole conversation, we've got into hard topics, our own life experiences, things got raw about stuff. But it's still in this like fun aesthetic of the Saturday morning cartoon. So like with all of that said, what do you hope that viewers take from this show?
I actually we get that question a lot, and we really the only thing I would say the thing that we would want people to take away from it is stop listening to people tell you what they want you to take away from something. It's like, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, we want to put something out there and let people digest it however they want to digest it, like it or dislike it, hate it or love it. I mean, do we want to, inspire people to think? Yeah, but I mean, what to think, that's up to the person. You know what I mean? And so like we really, because there's times where we do stuff that is like, very smart and socially responsible, and there's times we do shit that's socially irresponsible. So like, we're a part of the generation of people that are watching it and critiquing it and loving it. And some stuff we like and some stuff we look back at and we don't like. It's one of those things where we don't focus so much on the takeaway or what we want people to think or feel, because that I feel like hampers the honesty and integrity of what we're creating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that just boldness maybe is the thing. Is that if something we've talked about a couple of other people as well, is that we're in this just funny moment right now where there's a lot, particularly in the hip hop community, there's just this like generation that of artists that we're getting to interact with a lot who grew up, like watching some stuff that we did earlier on in our careers, and getting to kind of just continue to be in the conversation, and just give kind of a platform to really just reflect the culture as it is, ask some questions, make, show stuff that maybe isn't being shown, give people who aren't being seen an opportunity to be seen, and really, like the old, thing they used to say about TV is like the medium is the message, right? Is the idea that just it being on TV is the message, just showing people who think, look, and act like the people in our show are on TV. That's the message,
Well, with that, that wraps up the interview. Thanks so much for talking with me today.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Yes, yeah, definitely. We're honored.
And I hope that the show has a long track of success, and good luck with this show and any other opportunities y'all have.
Yeah. And one last thing I wanted to point out is for anyone that does not have Fuse TV, the show is available on Amazon Prime as well. There's some markets where if people don't have Fuse or are people that don't subscribe to cable currently, for the bargain price of 99 cents an episode, they are available as they come out. So we'd love the show to get seen by every and all people out there. So if there's if anybody needs to borrow $1 and then you can download an episode of Sugar and Toys.
Well, I'll make sure to put the Amazon plug in the article. That's actually good to know. Because I don't know if I have Fuse myself.
We just found out ourselves by clicking on Amazon.
Well, that's good to know, because I know I have Amazon Prime, and I think I have Fuse, but I know I have Amazon, so that would be good to know.
Hey, Monique, I'll send you over all the different places people can find the show.
Okay, great.
Thank you all for your time. We appreciate it. And Monique, I'll send you over some clips as well when we hang up.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice talking to y'all.
Bye.
Bye.